It's nice to be back in the outer space once again, but this time around we're actually dressing up as the actual bunny, or in this case for this matter, a long-eared rabbit. So even then though, or to be more accurate though, the brutals as far as I'd like to say. Hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, I am Mario here once again, and I'm back for some more yet again for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more of Let's Play of Super Mario Odyssey for the Nintendo Switch. So, last time we have managed to able to completely done with Luigi's Blue World in Bowser's Kingdom, despite it was pretty rough around the edges. In fact, I will say this right now, that between Bowser's Kingdom as well as the Snow Kingdom, I would say Bowser's Kingdom might actually be the roughest run of the entire, well, Luigi's Blue World video series. So today, this is going to be a grand finale for not in the actual Let's Play just yet, but to be more accurate, this is going to be a grand finale of Luigi's Blue World. Because of this, we are now going to be revisiting back to the forms of the Moon Kingdom for the final time, and because of this, we're about to be doing the usual stuff for the final time. In addition with that though, we might actually go ahead and see, what happens if you manage to max out your Power Moons count up to 999 Power Moons during the actual Mushroom Kingdom itself. So even then, we'll point that out whenever we get to it though, but for now on though, we'll have to mainly focusing on the Moon Kingdom as it is, so even then I just want to classify that. So, yeah, today's the forms of the 27th of December today, in this case in 2019. So relatively speaking, there's not much else I can talk about, apart from there's some quite a few things worth mentioning though, but I'll point that out until later on though. But from now on, I need to go ahead and find that specific placement. I need to place the balloon to begin with. I was supposed to be able to place it on the rooftop on that specific church, but unfortunately I didn't get a chance to do that. And plus, you know, we can't able to actually entering the actual cavern section, or especially noticeable with, you know, the 2D section, as well as the one in, the church, basically, because as far as I'm aware, I think this usually takes place in the exact same location, or almost exactly the same, location as you remember from, Koopa Free running, kinds of missions, but except, well, it's now going to be further away from the church, and it's going to be somewhere in the middle portion of that specific entire kingdom itself, because this time around though, rather than just like, you know, racing against with the Koopa Free running gangs or something like that, because instead, obviously we need to find those balloons, and that's pretty much all I can say about this here. So, but you know, you get the idea for that. So yeah. In addition with that though, is the fact that, some things I'd like to point things out, is the fact that I don't think we can able to actually reach up to, 50 stars for that matter for this run, just because, well, I was originally trying to able to show you guys what happens if you manage to able to, you know, give yourselves the actual award for 50 stars if you really want to max out your, stars count, but, it turns out though, it might not be exactly worth it to me though, because the only reward you can get though in the end, well, I'm not going to show this off until specifically right now, it's probably because we don't have that much time left, because, well, 2019 is getting close towards the end before we move on to, you know, in 2020, so even then though, it should be exciting all in all. So, you know, you probably get the idea for that. So even then, because chances are though, is the fact that, well, we might actually just think to ourselves that what's going to be up next for 2020 and stuff like that, such as like, you know, we've already got ourselves the actual AV to HDMI converter thing right now, so this means we can now finally do some retro gaming stuff, like Nintendo 64 stuff, the Dreamcast stuff, eventually Sega Saturn, and eventually PlayStation or something like that, despite we can able to play PlayStation stuff on the PlayStation 3, and, I think that's all I can say about it here. So even then though, aside from everything else though, there's also another thing I need to point things out, is the fact that I did manage to able to utilize the actual, the Mario game on the iPhone, which appears to be Dr. Mario World, that fortunately, I no longer have that game anymore, just because, well, I'll point it out whenever I get to it though, whenever we get to that discussion, but at this point in time though, is the fact that as far as everything else concerned, well, aside we've only got one more video coming up tomorrow, which eventually at this point, that after we're done with Super Mario Odyssey, then we can move on to the forms of, well, the next 3D Mario redo Let's Play for the time, such as, of course, Super Mario Sunshine next year. So even then, it should be exciting, and hopefully, though, I don't know if how well that can be turned out to be until in 2020 at some time. But then again, though, we'll have to demonstrate for ourselves with a new microphone until later down the road, specifically when it gets to a point whenever we do the next few Let's Plays, or in this case, the first few new Let's Plays during the forms of 2020. So, but you know, you get the drill for this point. So anyways, let's go ahead and find the next balloon. So, even though at this point in time, it's the fact that we do need to utilize the actual, the moon gravity around here. So even then, we can expect things too much about it. I think I would say is that this one is actually a lot easier, or this kingdom rather, is actually pretty easy compared to, Bowser's Kingdom for sure, just because in Bowser's Kingdom, basically it just usually takes place in, specifically in these multitude of, like, islands and stuff like that, with, like, split up parts and stuff like that, but I'm thinking that the Moon Kingdom is actually somewhat a little bit of the easier side of things, luckily, so hopefully we could able to rank up some more coins, and then hopefully we can able to purchase, you know, the final main costume of the game. I would try to show you guys the actual other costumes I can able to show off, but maybe during another time though, or maybe not now though, just because after all, we're pretty much almost towards the end of our Let's Play of Super Mario Odyssey. So even then, that's, I've already talked about my final thoughts of the game already during the forms of the actual main Let's Play, before we jump right into Luigi's Bloom World, I should say. So, but either way though, there's not much else to able to discuss upon for this point. So, speaking of which actually, is the fact that why is it every single years that we actually got ourselves about 50 plus subscribers in each year, which I would say, I'm actually kind of impressed with myself, or even then, impressed for ourselves at this rate, because as far as I'm aware, because we actually did a pretty good job when it comes to the forms of redoing Let's Plays and make them in a better quality as possible, which I think is very understandable in most other games, like, you know, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, and recently, Sochi 2014 Olympic Winter Games. Speaking of which, actually, is the fact that you notice that our Let's Play of Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games, the original Let's Play of that game, is no longer there. This is pretty obvious because we need to able to improve the quality as well as the commentary and stuff like that. Hopefully that'll make it happen during 2020, so hopefully that'll make it count. So even then, though, that's as far as I can usually describe it as such. And I suppose another thing I'd like to discuss upon is the fact that, well, again, as I mentioned this before, I did manage to use to have Dr. Mario World for the actual iPhone devices, and at the same time though, I no longer have that game anymore, just because, well, for one noticeable thing is the fact that out of all the actual Mario games being released on the mobile phones at this rate, I think to me though, Dr. Mario World might be considered to be the lowest of the three. Although, I think Mario Kart Tour might be somewhere in the middle for me, because there are some good parts about the game, and as well as some of the things about that game that I really do not like the most, such as, of course, you know exactly what I'm talking about, is the microtransaction system. And also another thing is that I keep on getting my game crashes every time whenever I enter in a new race or something like that, or even when the race is over. And as a result of this matter though, I constantly lost myself with, you know, for those godforsaken grand stars that I just was supposed to get. But although it did manage to happen to me before, well, it did manage to able to give me grand stars every time when the game crashes when the race is over during the forms of the past few months or so, since September actually. But everything else at this point in time, I'm just simply getting annoyed by my game crashes every time in Mario Kart Tour, assuming if I was trying to get myself some more grand stars to begin with, because I'm pretty sure we still have ourselves all downgraded phones, such as, well, the iPhone 6 that we still have, so, because unfortunately we don't have iPhone 8, or iPhone X, or recently 11 Pro. That's only because the actual pricing on those things is actually pretty expensive at this rate, so even then though, chances are, I'm probably not going to spend on that though, to be honest with you, because I think I'm going to have to, Well, for the majority of the time, for the time being anyway, though, where it comes to spending on cash and stuff like that, obviously we need to spend on, you know, Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind DLC, that's one obvious thing, and also Mega Man 0/ZX Legacy Collection on the PlayStation 4, because we already got every single minigame. Oh, nice! Nice little 0-second split for that specific balloon pop, that's amazing. Anyway, what was I trying to say? Oh yeah, the Mega Man 0/ZX Legacy Collection for the PlayStation 4, because, well, to be honest with you, because we've already got ourselves, well, I should say, I've already got myself the Legacy Collections for, you know, the classic Mega Man, as well as Mega Man X series at this point, on the PlayStation 4 at this rate, because I think the directional pad for 2D games is actually pretty good, with, you know, with DualShock 4 and stuff like that, to me, though, anyway. So, I would say the same thing for Nintendo Switch, but to be honest with you, it's because of how the fact that the analog stick was actually on the top left part of the controller, rather than the directional pad, as far as I'm aware. Well, usually as far as I can say about the comparison, but hey. But yeah, I do apologize with the actual commentary for the sake of time, folks, just because, well, there's not much else I can say. Oh yeah, apart from the fact that I need to still discuss upon that why I no longer have myself Dr. Mario World, I think it's pretty obvious, because I haven't really played that game all that much compared to Super Mario Run, as well as most recently Mario Kart Tour, because I think those two games are by far, to me, those more superior, despite with microtransactions in Mario Kart Tour. But even then, though, at least I did manage to enjoy myself for a bit, despite with, you know, compulsive gambling system with, you know, with microtransactions, as I said before, which did manage to kill the entire thing for me. And also another thing is the fact that I'm actually not a big fan of the most recent new track that has been bring into with Mario Kart Tour, you know, the holiday tour so far. And that appears to be by the forms of New York Minute, in this case New York Minute 2, which, I will say this right now, I'm getting so sick of that specific track. Although, don't get me wrong, it is okay for starters, but it just gets a little bit repetitive ever since in September, to me though anyway. I kind of prefer London Loop a little bit, despite with the little cringy rock electric guitar part, but that's probably just me anyway. So, yeah, let's talk about the forms of why I haven't gone back into Dr. Mario World, and plus I no longer have that on our phone, because, well, I mentioned this before already, that I've never actually touched the game all that much, and plus I'm actually getting into, well, I would say we're on World 3 right now, but for the majority of these worlds can go a little bit difficult, and also because, you know how the fact that I'm not exactly a huge master of the forms of Dr. Mario games, to be honest with you, because, normally I'm just, you know, never actually become a master of these kinds of games like this, because as a result of this kinds of stuff, most of my time, though, is the fact that I'm always, like, a little bit too slow when it comes to likely in higher difficulties or something, so yeah, that's as far as I can usually think about it. And plus, it has too many emphasis on gimmicks with certain viruses most of the time for, specifically in the later worlds, which can be kind of, like, repetitive to me, though. And also, like Mario Kart Tour, there was microtransactions, but sadly to say is the fact that, well, in order to actually pay for, the real items or something like that, specifically those star racing levels, which to be expected like in any other puzzle games, specifically from you know, the free app games or something like that, that you have to get like 1 or 3 stars to progress or something like that. Well, I didn't gather that much stars in the forms of you know, in Dr. Mario World, because, well, Dr. Mario World I should say, just because, well, to be honest with you, I'm just not a huge expert when it comes to the forms of Dr. Mario series to begin with. While I used to enjoyed them, don't get me wrong, it's just that, well, when it comes to everything else in the forms of Mario or Dr. Mario World, compared to Mario Kart Tour, that it might be different when it comes to fun and experimenting with it, but it's just that at this point in time, I think I should probably move on to Mario Kart Tour at this rate. Plus, there are some tons of allies, and especially noticeable with tons of characters able to unlock, but then again, in order to actually unlock most of these doctors, unlike the ones that how it does it in Mario Kart Tour, where you can't able to purchase the actual characters on the actual coin shops, luckily, unless if you're trying to go for the high-end characters with the most rarity or something like that you have to go with the microtransaction system, which has always been ridiculous. But it somehow makes it worse in the Dr. Mario world to me, though, because in order to actually get the doctors, is that, well, you just have to make sure you need to able to guarantee you can able to get yourselves luck with all this, you know, the staff tickets or something like that. So even then, that's why it just gets a bit ridiculous now for Dr. Mario World to me, though. So that's why I'm never gonna able to play that again. And plus, although the game itself looks kind of nice, but weirdly enough, though, is the fact that most of these character animations do heavily borrow those from the ND Cube Mario Party titles, specifically Mario Party 10, the you know, with the Wii U title for that game. So yeah, it seems a little bit odd at first, despite the ND Cube wasn't on there on the actual development cycle or something. So I suppose another thing I'd like to say for Dr. Mario World before I move on to the next discussion is that I personally not recommend it, because, well, as long as you become a fan of Dr. Mario series to begin with, more power to you. But for me, it's not even worth my time, because, well, I haven't really played that all that much, because, well, usually because of the actual microtransactions and all that stuff, which is always ruins the experience. But I'm really hoping that if the next, imagine this, right, if the next Mario Party game will be on the mobile phone, please, for the love of God, don't bring the microtransactions, because that really kills it for me. So even then, even for most other customer consumers out there, which I think is probably true for that regard, especially when I don't think I can able to reach that, sadly. Anyway, though, because as far as I'm aware, though, because the actual microtransactions gets a little bit worse as far as the years past, because usually in some games like Star Wars Battlefront 2, the 2017 edition, because I say that because, well, that particular version of, you know, Battlefront 2 does manage to offer us microtransactions, which is always like almost ruined the whole entire experience of that game, which probably due to EA and stuff, which thankfully in Jedi Fallen Order they did manage to able to improve upon everything when it comes to in comparison to Battlefront 2 and stuff like that, which is always appreciated. But even then, though, that's far from a truth for that case, when it comes to like certain stuff like, you know, how come microtransactions is always becomes a thing. Especially noticeable how the fact that why these things aren't there for the sake of time. But I don't know. I don't know about you for this point, guys, because either way... No! There's a balloon over there! Oh, shoot. I was a little bit too slow in that specific section. We'll give it another attempt. Because I know that was there. And plus I need to get myself more coins so that I could... You know, trying to get ourselves the final main costume, which is, of course, the actual Skeleton Mario, which, it does require to 100% complete the entire game, by the way, because I'm pretty sure, you know, with these special costumes that we sometimes wear, I don't think those will, count as far as 100% completion, as far as I'm aware. But just because of how the fact that these are there for the sake of, like, you know, just trying to add in more content here and there. So even then, unless there's like, you know, if you're trying to make yourselves a little bit too fancy or something. So, but anyway, so let's go and get that balloon. And we'll choose the next balloon, or in this case, a different balloon to pop next. So, I think relatively speaking, is the fact that we're pretty much almost there towards the actual maximum coins counter. So I think we should probably bet on that. So... Anyway, let's discuss on another thing we'd like to discuss upon, and that was the fact that, well, you know when we actually got ourselves our Game Boy player on our Christmas 2019 video? Turns out about the fact that we actually forgot to mention there was actually an eject button, which basically what that does, you know, we can able to change the Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance game cartridge slots, and then you can able to replace those in a different game. Also that specific, you know, for that specific unit. And that's the only reason why we forgot to mention about that during the forms of Christmas 2019 unboxings video is because, well, sadly to tell you is the fact that most of the video like that is actually kind of rushed a bit. But hopefully until likely, well, what should say that you notice on the very end of that video there will be going to be the finale of the Christmas unboxing videos until, well, the Christmas unboxing video specials until 2020, which that will be the final installment of the entire series, at least if you guys might actually not knowing of this. But during 2021 though, after when this finale conclusion ends, that we might actually do something completely different compared to the forms of how it does it from before, because, well, we're not going to get ahead of ourselves for this point just yet, because again, we're not going to spoil things temporarily though just yet, because otherwise though, that we're still in 2019 of course, and we're not even there in 2020 just yet though, and especially noticeable in 2021. So, but you know, you get the drill for this point. So, I suppose another thing I'd like to say, speaking of the Christmas 2019 unboxing videos, that when we actually upload that thing up, that we soon need to realize is the fact that the actual views count has actually gone up to 12 views so far back in during the likes of yesterday, whilst it progresses more until likely the later day comes. I think it's pretty obvious because of that reference to all the cameo appearance of Wallace and Gromit, because of, you know, how these two duos have become popular in the United Kingdom. I think it's pretty obvious because those two have now become 30 years old for this point now, ever since in 1989, you know, when the one it just released A Grand Day Out, the first Wallace and Gromit short films and stuff, which I think I appreciate that. Oh, speaking of appreciation, we got ourselves another star, which at this point will reach up to 43 as of now, so even then we pretty much maxed out our coins counter now. So I think we should probably do 2 more balloon attempts, and then hopefully we can able to end the actual mode up. So even then though, then hopefully we can able to move on to the final thing, which is of course the virtual reality thing for Super Mario Odyssey. And then when that's been up, then, you know, we can able to expect about the fact that the entire Let's Play of Super Mario Odyssey will be finished. So, yeah, it's actually kind of think about it, we're actually getting quite fast and quick, or especially noticeable how the fact that despite with some ups and downs here and there, specifically on the 26th part of this particular Let's Play, because of, I think this might be actually be the only part that we actually got ourselves about 2 dislikes. Well, we did manage to like our video, don't get me wrong, it's just that I know some people seem to have their different own opinions and stuff like that, so I guess that's pretty obvious for that point. So, at least we did found that balloon at least, so I think we should probably do let's just do one more. Yeah, I think we should probably do one more. Let's think of, let's just go for this Japanese person. And I bet it's gonna be at, somewhere at the church section. So hopefully we can able to find that at least. So, I think that's as far as I can say when it comes to this point, guys, because even then there's not much else I can usually just try to discuss upon. Well, I've already mentioned about the forms of, why I no longer have Dr. Mario World at this rate now, and it's probably because of how the fact that I'm probably not going to touch that game ever again. Sure, it's a little bit exciting at first, in journey forms of about 5 months ago, but after about 5 months later, I finally realized I have not actually touched upon that game all that much, in comparison to the forms of how it does it in, specifically, you know, Mario Kart Tour, which, by this point in time, is the fact that, according to the App Store, it's probably the #1 racing games in the entire App Stores and stuff like that, which is super surprising right there. But I realized is the fact that the actual balloon is actually on the rooftop on that church, which I was supposed to get it from here, but then again, I was a little bit too slow. But then again, hopefully we'll do this for the final time, and hopefully we can able to succeed for this time, so... And hopefully we'll get some more coins along the way, such as bypassing for those little, coin rings and stuff like that, which, I think it's self-explanatory for the sake of time. So we'll just go ahead and keep on rolling around, and then hopefully we could make our way to the actual church rooftop, and then, well, everything's all come together. So even then, we could, expecting so anyway. I think the best way to do this is, of course, I don't think we can able to do that though, because yeah, that happens. So let's just go ahead and ground pound here, just in case we can able to get ourselves the actual space moon physics here and there. And there we go. I think that pretty much takes care of everything else when it comes to Luigi's Bloom World, as far as I'm aware. So yeah, I guess this is about time to able to actually wrap things up with Luigi's Bloom World in this case, folks, because as far as I'm aware, despite we have not even reached up to the 50-star mark, but then again, the only reward you can get is, of course, the golden balloons cosmetic changes with the actual balloons, as you can tell. So I don't think there's anything else rewarding for that. It's just not worth it in my opinion. So I guess that pretty much takes care from that. So anyway, so let's go ahead and purchase the final thing for the entire Let's Play of this, and that is of course the skeleton outfit, so that we can able to, well, 100% for everything. So let's go ahead and change into that. And I was supposed to show off, you know, the extra costumes that I like to show off, including the weird one, which is of course the Pixel Mario costume outfit, but then again, I'm probably not going to do that because, well, you know, we're just getting close towards the end of this Let's Play, folks. We are getting close towards the end for this point. So, as you can see on this little costume selection, we got ourselves this star icon on the actual the cupboard, as far as I'm aware, because we got about 51 when it comes to hats, and especially noticeable for 52 of those main costumes themselves. This is pretty obvious because, as you can tell from the actual yellow gold numbers representing it, this means we are 100% with the actual costume purchases. So even then, let's head back to the Mushroom Kingdom quickly, and because of this, you know, we actually reach up to, 999 Power Moons ever since in Bowser's Kingdom. Well, there must be something that's very rewarding after doing so. So as you can see, oh, there's actually a big top hat onto that specific Peach's Castle at the top. Gee, I wonder what that's for, I wonder. Well, we'll never notice by now. It's the fact that we might as well double check on that as soon as we're able to investigate. So, yeah, but it seems a little bit redundant to able to utilize the skeleton Mario for the sake of this video, just because the Halloween, it's not actually there yet until 2020. So, but even then, no, kudos to that, but we'll have to do it anyway for the sake of time. So anyways, let's go ahead and hop onto this little scarecrow with the Cappy. And then I think we have to do that twice in order to actually just to go up, ever since, you know, just like we've ever done this before. So, yeah, you probably get the idea for that. I was going to be able to join with Yoshi for this point, but unfortunately, though, Yoshi doesn't have the ability to able to climb onto poles, unlike Super Mario 64 DS. So, I guess that makes it obvious for that point. So, okay, for some reason, I had a hard time trying to get onto that flagpole right there, which, no idea why, but we'll give this as in the second attempt right there. I know this actual commentary thing is a little bit dropped on a bit, but regardless of everything else, so... Anyways, let's hop onto this little hat thing right here, in addition with this next pole, and if we go up all the way up to the top, then Cappy will actually say something to us. You can see the whole of Mushroom Kingdom, which, yes, you can now actually see the entire horizon, including Yoshi's house in the distance. But what you can do with this little glowing spot right there is the fact that if we go ahead and toss Cappy as long enough as it is, then this happens. And that's the only rewards we can think of. So it's basically, it's like a nice little view from Peach's Castle, but it turns out it got fireworks on it. So that's alright, I suppose, but I would say I kind of wish there was actually a better reward or something, like specifically, well, despite we've already got ourselves the hardest mission throughout the whole game, but regardless of anything else though, it is a nice little reward, I suppose, but apart from the fact that, well, there's not much else there to begin with, but still. So anyways, as you can see, that since after all we've basically 100% for everything when it comes to Super Mario Odyssey, basically, we got, you know, every single Power Moons, and we got every single regional coins based off from different regions that we went to, and also we got every single music album for the music list, and also we got ourselves every single souvenir lists, as you can see, both from sculptures and stickers, and finally the capture list, as you can see right there. So naturally we got all 52 of them in total, and also we've already pointed things out with the actual costumes already. So I think I've actually lost count of how much costumes you do need to 100% the whole game. But then again, let me know in the comments below about the fact that how much costumes you're gonna have to able to get if you really want to 100% for basically for everything else. So, but anyways though, so because basically what happens is the fact that, yes, you can see that little star icons, this means you're basically done with the actual costume purchases. So, but then again, special costumes won't count because the only ones you need to count for is, of course, when it says like new price tag or something like that, and then that way you can able to purchase it from here. So let's go ahead and save our game quickly right here. And if we go onto options and go to data management and hit onto load, as you can see on the top left corner of that specific photo, we also get ourselves a star icon, which means that you have to do these requirements in order to actually just to get that star icon, because if you miss out quite a few new costumes, not these special costumes, because again, those don't count. But if you're missing out one thing in particular with those categories, well, you probably don't get yourselves a star icon to begin with. So, but that's the thing, that's the only thing I need to point that out right away. But then again, though, it's just a little bit of a convenience that is. So, yeah, I guess we'll end things up here for this point, guys. So join me tomorrow for more of Let's Play of Super Mario Odyssey. Will be a finale of this entire Let's Play by showing off the final thing of this entire game, and that is, of course, the virtual reality thing for Nintendo Labo, which I'll point it out whenever we get to it till tomorrow. But for the time being, this is me, Mario, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Later, fellas.